Okay, we're live. Thank you for everyone that's joining here across LinkedIn, YouTube. We're joined today by John. John's one of the clients who's just finished up Reignite PRO. John, you want to start off by giving us a bit of intro as to who you are, what you do, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. So my name's John. I am the head of product at England Rugby, or the RFU. Been there about a year now. Previously working in product roles across a couple of different organisations, and have kind of spent the last 3 months working with Alex in transforming how I think about myself.
Nice. And so before we actually, if you can cast your mind back to before we started work together, before you joined the program, what were some of the things that were going on in your life? What were some of the challenges that you were perhaps facing into?
Yeah. So I changed roles, and I think had gone through quite a lot of actually some pretty massive imposter syndrome of moving from a well-established team to being on my own for a bit in the organization, and then starting to form a new team, and had slipped quite badly actually into just some pretty poor mental health. My kind of anxiety was pretty high, as was depression, and was just kind of feeling a little bit like, what am I doing? I've kind of made quite a big career change. I'm not really sure where I fit at the moment, and was kind of finding that my confidence was massively dropping. So it was a need to do a bit of a reset on me and get that confidence that I'd had back quite quickly.
How was that, or was that like impacting you across like different levels? So if we talk about like health, for example, there's obviously physical health, there's mental health, there's maybe even some like emotional health or emotional resilience, how we're coping with stress. But how was that impacting you across maybe those 3 different levels?
Yeah, so I guess like emotionally, I was just kind of really, I guess, like struggling with self-identity. I'd had a very established role and a very established kind of who I am, where I work, what do I do, and I felt like that kind of by my own desire to move and grow, to kind of be flipped a bit upside down. And so I was finding myself feeling very I guess like unnecessarily overwhelmed with life, and physically, I raced as part of a dragon boat crew, but I was not really taking care at all of my physical health. I was quite overweight. I wasn't feeling particularly comfortable in my own body, and then I guess mentally, as I said, really just always had a bit of a level of anxiety, but it was through the roof, and that was becoming quite difficult to concentrate and make decisions and embed myself in a role. It wasn't great.
Okay. And we had some conversations a little while back, right? And then we picked up and we actually jumped into Reignite PRO just over 3 months ago.
Yeah.
What were some of your reservations about either getting help, getting coaching, or jumping into a program in the past?
Mainly time. But that was my own kind of my own excuse. I think it was a feeling that I felt like I knew these things. Like I knew that I needed to like take care of my physical health. I knew that having a good nutrition was great. I knew that having a plan, and I'm very passionate about talking about like self-development and love kind of coaching teams and effective use of like PDPs and developing. I knew all of these things were really important, and so I felt that investing in a program where a lot of the focus was going to be on those things, I was thinking, well, what am I gonna get from that? But what I hadn't really taken into account is the fact that I wasn't holding myself accountable for all the things that I talk quite passionately about to other people. And so, I think it was a bit of a fear of actually, it was definitely a fear of like, well, I'm actually going to have to take some self accountability here and really lean into these things. And that was quite a, when I was feeling in a place where I wasn't particularly loving of myself, to suddenly start really deeply investing in yourself, that felt quite like a lot to do. Ultimately was the right thing to have done.
And that was a big sort of step up, a big decision to actually come on board and do Reignite Pro.
Yeah.
Time is an interesting one, right? Because quite often time comes up, that certainly with people that I speak to, is something that stops them from either moving forwards, whether it's kind of doing a coaching program or whether it's just working towards a goal or an outcome. Like, what would you, having sort of been in that sort of cohort of people that would have used that perhaps as an excuse and then going through a program, like, what was your experience? Like, was it difficult to find time to do some of the things that we talked about? Did it make it harder having like coaching support? Was it easier? What was your experience?
Ultimately, like, we control the time that we have, right? And we find plenty of time to do other things like sit and mindlessly scroll on our phones or not get outside, or we find time every day for meetings at work. And so actually it was quite a good refreshing realization that there is time if you make it and you treat your own self-development as a non-negotiable meeting. And so that for me was like, I was living this kind of either or. I was really like pushing all the time at work, but then leaving all of the kind of outer activities in terms of just good health by the wayside. So it wasn't actually challenging to find the time. It just took the effort to be cognizant of the fact that you need to find it, and then being kind of religious in sticking to the gym slots and the reflection slots and all the things that we work through.
Stepping up into Reignite Pro,
yeah.
What did you hope to achieve? What were some of the goals or outcomes that you wanted to achieve?
Yeah, there were kind of three. One was like to reestablish my own self-confidence in being able to do my job, which sounds quite nebulous, but I'd moved into a new organization where I didn't have a network, and suddenly found myself for the first time in 3 years really needing to deeply think about forming new relationships. The second was get healthier, and that kind of really broke down into get a control of my eating, lose weight, and we had quite a punchy weight target that we were going after. And the third was in that also was then kind of some dragon boat related ones. And then the third goal was all really around like emotional resilience. And I've had a lot of feedback in the past that I wear my emotions on my face. I probably still do, but to some extent, but I'm getting better at kind of keeping that in check. But when there was a setback, being able to bounce back from that much quicker than what was previously happening and not fall into a loop of doom, which is what I was quite often finding myself in. So kind of more confidence, kind of professional growth related, health related, and then more emotional mindset related.
And if you can again cast your mind back to when you actually set those, how were you feeling when we were writing those down?
Excited, but also, I'm probably the first to admit that I'm sometimes quite self-defeatist, and I think I was always looking at them thinking, well, that they're are they achievable? But excited for the challenge, and I think actually just seeing them broken down in that way was really good. I do that every day at work, right? We take big nebulous goals, but when you try and apply that to yourself, I think it was quite just cathartic almost to go, right, these are the three things that are going to be my sole personal focus, and then seeing them every week get like progress towards them was great. But I definitely felt, I guess, nervous, excited, a little bit daunted, but also kind of motivated to achieve them.
Awesome. And I guess like once we've defined those goals, right, it's about as much as you're not doing as what you're focusing on. So it's like we do in business, right? We prioritize things, at least we try to, and rather than having 10 number ones, it's like this is the number one thing. So for you, it's like these were the top 3 things that we were focusing on. But sometimes people can still think that, right, I'm going to go into a 12-week or a 3-month program and it's going to be plain sailing. Like, what sort of challenges or obstacles actually came up during the time that we were working together that you had to navigate?
Well, Christmas. So from a fitness and diet perspective, it's part of what we worked together on. I think there was my own self-control in an environment of high consumption. So that was definitely a challenge and or excuse. I think also just a feeling of, I guess there were points in time where I felt like I was making really good progress. There are points in time where I thought, oh, maybe I haven't focused as much on say, like the weight goal that we were going after. And I think remember having a conversation where I said, maybe we just focus on the mindset here, and we let that go. And it was very much no, we're doing everything. And so I guess the challenge there was my own, I guess, confidence in continually striving to push myself in a number of different areas. And I think we covered some pretty meaty emotional topics, right? There was a couple of sessions when we worked through things like the pie of life, or the life pie, and actually, the realization from that is that I've got things pretty much in check in most parts of my life, other than my self belief. And then when we really drilled into that, we touched on some topics there, which were, more about like, where does my lack of self-belief come from? And that was, emotionally challenging. And so, I'd leave the sessions with some clear steps, but also, a realization that this is quite eye-opening in terms of like my own understanding of myself. And that takes a lot for you to kind of sit and process and drop back into your day-to-day and just kind of, working on yourself is a job, right? And I think that was kind of just, it was a lot of self-development in that period of time.
Nice. If we take a step back, right, and we look at some of the outcomes that you did achieve, I've got a couple of things here, right? So in terms of the physical aspects, you lost 9 kilos of body fat, right? Not just sort of body weight, but body fat. You're significantly more emotionally resilient now. There's a blueprint in place for changes in relation to a number of different aspects in your life. Like, reflecting on all of that, like how does that make you feel? How do you feel, having gone through the program?
A lot more in control. And I think, we spoke right at the beginning about the fact that I felt I had this kind of like feeling of just being a little bit lost, which was a bit strange considering I've been pretty like structured with like roles, approaches to life, but this kind of feeling that I'd reached a point where I was just a bit unsure about like what was next, and now I feel a lot clearer around that. And I'd been grappling with cutting back on say drinking, and now I don't drink at all, which is great. I've really taken a big punt into that, and I was feeling a little bit like this sense of like loss from I guess just owning it, being younger to like where I am now, and thinking I don't really recognize myself today, and kind of was fighting against that. But now I really feel a great recognition of myself, and now really excited about like the steps I'm going to go on and where I want to steer my interests and how I'm going to kind of structure my life. So yeah, I feel like a much more sense of control over what was feeling unnecessarily uncontrolled.
Nice. Okay, so controls are sort of a big one there. If we look at mentally how things have changed, and maybe sort of focus on that word like mindset. So mindset meaning cognitive thought that drives your behavior, or that inner dialogue. Like, how is that different, and why is that important?
So I have always had, and probably still continue to get sometimes, a lot of feedback that I'm very like self-deprecating, and will always put probably a slightly more self-negative spin on things. I am still on a journey of not doing that, but I'm now incredibly cognizant of when I am doing it, and can put in place challenges and prompts to myself to go, am I thinking about this in the wrong way? Am I thinking about this negatively? And I guess it's moving me from this position of feeling like I'm not succeeding to a position of feeling like I am. And that's much more positive in terms of looking at a journey when you've gone through an experience of feeling highly anxious and pretty low, to be able to actually reframe your progress into the fact that you're incrementally getting stronger at these things. That for me has been like a massive move forward, is to look at life with a little bit more energy again, and feel that I'm strong.
Awesome. Okay. And there's different sort of modalities out there. There's people out there that focus primarily on like fitness coaching. There's people out there that focus on broad sort of life coaching and therapy. There's people out there that focus on like career coaching. How is this sort of holistic approach to health and performance, How's that the same or different from anything that you've tried in the past?
So yeah, I've been fortunate to do a lot of in the past, kind of been part of gyms and done lots of fitness related work, and I guess my weight and fitness has kind of yo-yoed over years. And then from a career growth perspective, had some really great mentors, continue to have some great mentors, have leveraged coaching to good effect. But I guess I've not ever really fully joined the dots between the fact that all of these things need to come together, and actually having an all-round kind of reset and going, right, your energy comes from your fitness, it comes from your mental resilience, it comes from feeling of mastery in your career. This has been a really good reset of that, and taught me a whole lot of different skills in a number of areas I didn't even realize were important, to be honest with you. So it's different because you're not just focusing on one thing, and one week we could be talking about challenging conversations that I need to have at work and how maybe I can approach it and why am I having that emotional response to that situation. And the next week talking about how to effectively incorporate meditation, into your day to day. And then another week we're talking about, actually how does nutrition have a direct correlation to your mental state. So, we're coming at all different angles, which meant that actually, in terms of life improvement, you're attacking more than one thing. And I think I have been, and I guess continue to be a little bit of sometimes an all or nothing approach. Sometimes that meant that I was going really deep into career growth and forgetting absolutely everything else, or I was focusing on challenges I was having outside of work, and therefore letting things in work maybe not is where I want them to be. But by having this kind of all-round approach, being able to look at life as, well, I guess that really is everything, and inject the right focus in the right areas.
What would you say now, 3 months on, right? So you've come through Reignite PRO, you finished it. What's the biggest takeaway for you personally?
You are the beginning and ending of the control of your own life, and that if you're in a situation you don't want to be in, you solve that. If you're not the weight that you want to be, you solve that. If you're not doing what you feel you're strong at doing, you solve that. And I guess a sense of just life accountability, really. That's really the biggest takeaway.
I love that. It's like ownership. It's right.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
If things are fucked up in your life, it might not be your fault, but it's damn well your responsibility to take ownership of that. And part of that might be getting help to move forwards, right? And so if you think about your journey through Reignite PRO, sometimes I'll push, sometimes I'll challenge, sometimes I can be a see you next Tuesday. What was your kind of experience like with, maybe a metaphorical arm around your shoulder sometimes versus if we're using the example again of when you wanted to take your eye off the physical goals and just concentrate on the mindset and said, no, we're not going to do that. What was that experience going through those different responses?
Yeah. I mean, you were directly challenging every single week, but flexed and approached during different sessions, right? And so you would always give me room to talk something through, prompt me with questions. What I really appreciated is in the early parts of the program, it was very much a direct, here are the things that you're going to work on in this order, and that was great to kind of get the clarity. But as the program went on, actually our relationship, I guess, morphed more into, if you haven't done that mindset exercise, that's on you. There were times where actually I would be talking about something, maybe in a way that was very kind of, woe is me, and you would quite interject and say, actually, look, let's own this, right? You're behaving in this way, and let me give you some feedback. And that was really great because I could take that on, reflect on it, and then come to our next session, having kind of digested that. So it was a real mix of helping me come to an answer, but also pointing things out that maybe I wasn't really wanting to own myself, right? So it was a firm mirror.
What's maybe something that now 3 months on that you think this is possible, leaving, or you didn't think was possible, 3 months ago?
Oh, there's a couple of things actually. I mean, part of what I discovered in this is a massive love for the ice, so like cold water therapy, and that part of your early days things was going to stand under a cold shower for 90 seconds, and I thought that was pretty brutal, but I love it. And we went away this weekend, just gone, and it was 8 degrees in the sea, and I just strolled straight in and swam in it. And so now I know that like I can deal with literally the cold, but also just like there are going to be stressful situations that you put yourself in or need to be in, and I know I can deal with them. So that's kind of I know that I can handle cold water therapy. But no, really, it's a continued self belief in being able to handle challenge. And I definitely, still have work to do, but I find myself more and more every day being able to, if I'm finding something challenging, pause, stop, and go, you can do this, and adjust and move forward. So it's a renewed like self-belief, and I now believe that there are big steps that I can take in life that aren't going to be overwhelming.
Awesome. Well, look, so maybe sort of final question on this, unless there's guys, if you guys watching have any questions, please do pop them in the comments, and we'll see if we can get to them today. But sort of final question from me as we're going through this: what type of person do you think is the type of person that will most benefit from either coaching or particularly Reignite Pro?
Somebody that's willing to have the courage to say that I do want to be better and I do want to feel like in control. And when you kind of first reached out to me and we started talking, I was thinking, well, as I said, like I kind of know some of these things. So am I really going to benefit from this? And actually, it's exactly then if you think you know all of these things but you're not doing them, ask yourself why. and the coaching is somebody who's kind of thinking, I know I need to exercise, I know I need to take care of mental health, I know that I need to have a bit of a plan for what I'm doing, but you're not doing it. That's exactly the window, right? If you're feeling it a bit rudderless and lacking in energy, that's you, and that was me.
Awesome. Well, look, John, thank you so much for popping on and talking about your experience going through.
No problem.
It's invaluable for people to see examples like yourself of people that have made a decision to make some significant changes in their life and have come through it and the other side. So, guys, that's just about wrapping us up for today. If anyone was watching this on replay and has a question, please do leave it in the comments, and myself or John will circle around and answer that in due course. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and take care, and see you later.